Hello, my name is Mayanka. I am account and a finance trainer from Uplatz. Today in this class, we will discuss our new topic. The topic is liability in special cases. In this class and in other classes which is relating to this topic, we will discuss some special cases. And in these special cases, we will discuss who will be liable. Who will be liable? Is that normally the person, the assessee, is liable for the payment of taxes, for the any of the assessment. But due to any reason, just like the assessee is expired. So in this situation, who will be liable to pay the amount of tax and on whom the assessment will be made? So there are some special cases. And in such special cases, we will discuss who will be liable, means the liability of the persons in the special cases. So this is section 159. This is very important section of Income Tax Act because on the basis of this, we can understand who will be liable and on whom the assessment will be made in the case of special cases. So now we will start our discussion on section 159. Section 159 of Income Tax Act. First, we will discuss legal representative. Who is the legal representative? What is the meaning of legal representative? What is the meaning of the legal representative? The meaning of the legal representative is defined in section 2, subsection 29 of the Income Tax Act. The definition of the legal representative is defined. It is clarified that he is a legal representative means the such person will be legal representative of the such particular person. So section 2 subsection 29 define the meaning of the legal representative. Legal representative means the person who will be legally present another person. Means if there is any person who has expired. So if there is any person who is presenting such a deceased person, if there is any person who is lawfully represent such a deceased person, then such person will be considered as legal representative of such person. Just like for the example, there is a person Mr. Ram, and due to some accident, he expired. He expired. Due to the accident, he is expired. Now, Mr. Sham, he is representing him. Mr. Sham is legally representing him. So, Mr. Sham will be considered as a legal representative. Mr. Sham will be considered as legal representative. He will be considered as legal representative because he is presenting Mr. Ram after when he expired, means when he expired, Mr. Sham will legally represent him. So the person who will legally represent the deceased person or the another person, means on the behalf of another person, then he will be considered as legal representative. Then he will be considered as legal representative. Legal representative in the Income Tax Act 1961 has the meaning which is assigned to in section 2 subsection 11 of Code of Civil Procedure 1908. Means the Income Tax Act 1961 contains the definition of the legal representative, and it is assigned to it in section 2 subsection 11 of Code of Civil Procedure 1908. So according to the Income Tax Act 1967 and according to the Code of Civil Procedure, the meaning of the legal representative, the meaning is the legal representative is that the person who is law presents, who in law present the states of deceased person, means the person who is legally present the deceased person, and it is also include any person who intermediates with the state of that disease and where a party sue or is sued in the representative character, the person on whom the state devolves on the death of the party so suing and sued, is that when there is any person, when there is any person, and if any person who is representing another person on the behalf of such a previous person, then such person will be considered as legal representative, means the person who is lawfully represent, lawfully, who is legally or who is lawfully liable, that he can present such a deceased person or he can present such a particular person. Normally in the case of death, normally in the case of death, when the person expired, then who will sue the case or who will file the return and who will pay the tax on the behalf of such deceased person, on the behalf of such deceased person. So the person who is law present the state of the deceased person will be considered as legal representative, and it is also include and the definition of the legal representative, and the definition of the legal representative is also include any person, it is also include any person who intermediates with the state of the deceased, states of the deceased, and and in the case when there is any person a party where a party sues, where there is a party and it is and such party sue or it is sued in the representative character, then the person on whom the state devolves on the death of the party so suing and sued, is that for the example there is a person, Mr. Sohan, and Mr. Sohan sues on Ram. On Ram, Mr. Sohan filed a suit. Mr. Sohan filed Mr. on Mr. Ram, Mr. Sohan filed a suit. File a suit. Now in this situation, Ram will present in court. But the Sohan is not in situation that he will present in the court to such proceeding. In the case of such proceeding, he is not eligible to come to the court. So he appoint a professional to attend to attend to attend such proceeding on the behalf of me, means he appoint a professional, just like CA, just like advocate, means he appoint a person that such person will represent me before the court in the respect of such proceeding, in the respect of such case. Then the person, just like he appoint a CA, or he appoint any lawyer, he appoint a lawyer, then such CA or then such a lawyer who will represent himself, who will represent Mr. Mohan in the court in the respect of such sue, then such person will be considered as a representative, then such person will be considered as a representative. Now such person they are legally authorized by the such Sohan, Mr. CA or the lawyer, they are legally authorized that they will represent Mr. Sohan as a Sohan. So they will be considered as legal representative. They will be considered as legal representative. Or if Mr. Sohan told to her son to go and attend the such proceeding, to attend the such proceeding, son to his son, then his son will be considered as legal representative. Then his son will be considered as a legal representative. Or another example, just like Mr. Mohan, Mr. Mohan, he has expired. He has expired. Now, but before his expiring, there was a case in the court. There was a case in the court, and it is in progress. It is in progress. Now he is expired. Now he is expired. Who will present such case? Who will present, or who will proceed such case? So his son. So if his son proceeds such case, if his brother proceed his case, means if there is any person who is the legal representative, means who will represent Mohan in the court after his death, then such person will be considered as a legal representative. Then any person who will lawfully legally represent the deceased person, then such person will be considered as a legal representative. Then he will be considered as legal representative. So the legal representative, the definition of the legal representative is in Income Tax Act 1961, and it is also given in Code of Civil Procedure. As per the definition, a person who is in law represent the state of deceased, who present the identity of the deceased person, and it is also include any person who intermediates with the state of deceased, and where a party sues or is sued in the representative character. So this is the definition, this is the meaning of legal representative. This is the definition and this is the meaning of legal representative. In the case of legal representative, it is not important. Should be the the legal representative should be the beneficial owner. Means it should not be mandatory that the legal representative is the beneficial owner of any particular property, of any particular estate. Means it is not necessary that the legal representative should be the beneficial owner of the estate. If he is not a beneficial owner, he is not relating to such properties, to such estate, then he will also become a legal representative. He is also become a legal representative. So it is not necessary that the legal representative should be the owner, should be the beneficiary owner of such property, of such estate. Nor need he is the possession, he be in the possession of any property of the deceased, and means it is not necessary, means it is neither, means we can say that it is not mandatory that the Mohan's son is the beneficial owner of the property, is the beneficial owner of the property, and the property should not be in the possession of such person. Means if there is any person who is not the legal beneficial owner, who is not the beneficiary owner of such estate, and he does not have the property in his possession, then he will also be a legal representative. He is also be a legal representative. It is sufficient that the state devolves on him. So far as HUF is concerned, it continue to exist as a assessable unit, repeat change in its composition, including the change of its karta by the death or otherwise. And consequently, there is no scope or necessity for involving this section when a karta dies. Is that in the case of in the case of HUF? In the case of HUF, the HUF is Hindu undivided family, and in a Hindu undivided family, if in the Hindu undivided family, there is the family members who work together and who are involved in any activity, who are involved in the activities. In the Hindu undivided family, there is the karta, there is the family members of karta, son of such main person, wife of main person, daughters, all also there in such HUF. So in the case of HUF, the HUF will be continued. It will be continuation. It will continue to exist as an assessable unit. Means a HUF will be continue. It will be considered as a unit, as a assessable unit. Means it will be continue as a HUF. There will no any change. There will not any change if if there is the death of karta. Means for the example, if there is any HUF, means for the example, there is a HUF, and in such HUF, Mr. A, he is a karta. Mr. A, he is a karta. And now Mr. A expired. Mr. A has expired. Mr. A has expired. So in this situation, in the case of HUF, the son of Mr. A, the son of Mr. A, now he will become karta. The son of Mr. A, he will become karta. Means if in the case of HUF, because in the case of HUF there are many members, there are many members of a family. It include father, it include brothers, it include sons, it include children, daughters. Means in the case of HUF there are many members. If the karta died, if the karta expired, then the other member of the HUF or any other man member may become the karta, may become the main member. The if the karta is died, then another male member become the member of such HUF. Means he will become the karta of such HUF. So in the case of HUF, the HUF is a concerned. It continue to be exist as an assessable unit. Repeat, there is any change in composition, including the change including when there is the death of karta or otherwise, and consequently there is no scope or necessity for involving this section when the karta dies. Is that in the case of HUF, there is no need to involve such a case, sorry, such a section, because in the case of when the karta dies, there may be another person, another man, just like his son will become the karta of such a family. So then after the karta will, then after Mr. A will, his son, Mr. A's son, he will perform all the activities of the HUF just like a karta. So in this situation, so in the case of HUF, no need to impose this section, no need to appoint any legal representative, no need of any other person who will represent HUF, who will represent such karta. No need of this. So when there a person, where a person leaves a will appointing executor, then the executor are the legal representative. If there is any person who has appointed any other executor, if there is a person and he leaves a will appointing executor, means if there is any person who is appointed by the another person as the executor or as who will perform the work on the behalf of the deceased, then such person will be considered as, then such executor will be considered as legal representative. Just like advocate, CA, these all are executors which are appointed by the any deceased person or any dead person, then they will be considered as legal representative. So the act expressly declared that a legal representative is deemed to be an assessee for the purpose of Income Tax Act. So, as per such definition, we can say that if any person who is appointed by the deceased person, means after before his death, he appoint any person or any other person who is appointed by the assessee for the purpose of execution, for the purpose to execute any activity on his behalf, then he will be considered as legal representative. Means the person who can legally represent the another person, who can legally represent the another person, then such person will be known as legal representative. So as per the provision of Income Tax Act, the legal representative will be deemed, it will be considered as the assessee. It will be considered the assessee for the purpose of Income Tax Act. Means means if there is any, if there is any penalty or there is any case which is pending in the Income Tax Act on a person and he has expired, then such a legal representative will be liable to make the payment of such tax, to make the payment of such penalty, or to proceed the such case. Means such a legal representative will be deemed the assessee. He will be deemed assessee. He will be considered as deemed assessee in the Income Tax Act. And the provision which is applicable on the previous assessee will be applicable on him. So now we will discuss next one, assessment of legal representative. Assessment of legal representative. Assessment of legal representative is that when there is a person who has expired and there is a son who is the legal representative of such a deceased person, who is the legal representative of deceased person, and before the death of such person, there are some pending cases, there are some pending assessment, there are some pending cases, there are some pending assessment. So in this situation, all these pending assessment, all these pending cases after his death will be applicable, or it will be proceed on such a legal representative. Is that, for the example, Mr. Sohan, he has expired, he has expired. Now before his death, before his death, there are there are some proceedings, there are some proceedings which are pending, which are pending, means which are not completed, which are not completed. But before the completion, the Sohan is not there. Means before his expiry, there are some cases, there are some cases which are not completed, which are not expired. So in this situation, now Mr. Sohan is not there. So now his son or any of the person who is the legal representative of Mr. Sohan will be continue, means all these cases, all these proceeding will be performed or will be proceed by the legal representative of such Sohan, of the Sohan. So this section applies irrespective of whether the assessment proceeding has not been assessed, has not been started, or started, but they were pending, but they are pending and were completed, and the assessment made before the death of deceased, before the death of deceased, before the death of deceased, there are some assessments which are pending, which are not started, and which was not completed, which was not completed. So for the purpose of making an assessment and for the purpose of laying any sum in the hands of legal representative, so for the purpose means now all the penalties, if there is any, all the taxes, if there is any taxes, and all these proceedings will be applicable, or it will be proceed by such a legal representative. So for the purpose of making an assessment or for the purpose of laying any sum in the hands of legal representative. Number one, any proceeding taken against the deceased before his death shall be deemed to be taken against the legal representative. Means it will be considered that if any of the proceeding, any of the case which is taken, any of the proceeding or any of the case which is taken against the deceased person before his death, means if there is any case, there is any proceeding before his death, before the death of Sohan, on the Sohan, means there was a case in which the Sohan was a party before his death, then it will be considered that now his representative, his legal representative is the party of such case. Means any proceeding which is taken against such a legal representative, sorry, is taken against the deceased person. Now, after the death of such person, it will be considered that all these will be taken against the legal representative and may be continued against the legal representative from this that stage. And now this case, this proceeding will be continue. It will be continue on the legal representative from that state, from that particular state. Not from starting, it will be particular state at which, means at the state at which such a case, such proceeding is performed or done by the main person. Any proceeding which could have been taken against the deceased for the default committed by him can be started against the legal representative. If there is any proceeding which is made, if there is any proceeding which has been taken against the deceased person due to any of the default, due to the any of the default, and such a default is made by the such person, then it will also be continue on the legal representative. Is that if there is any default which is made by the legal, which is made by the such a deceased person before his death, and there was a proceeding on such person, there was a case on such person, now such a proceeding will also be continue on such a legal representative. Means such, now such a legal representative, he will be liable, or he will be considered that the default is committed by him. Means it will be considered that the default is committed by him. So in this situation, if there is any proceeding, if there is any case which is against the deceased person, which is in the against of deceased person before his death, then and such a proceeding is due to any default which is made by, which is committed by such person, then it will be started, or it can be started against the legal representative. Means now the such legal representative will be performed as the assessee. All the provision of this act shall be applied accordingly. All the provision which are applicable on the deceased person before his death will be applicable on such a legal representative. Means now the legal representative will perform the activity just like a assessee. He is a worker. He is performed, or he is liable for the all the activity just like a legal representative. Just like a legal representative. Just like the legal representative. So, if at the date of death of the deceased, if at the date at the date of the deceased person, means there is the deceased person expired, means the person has expired. The return of income had not been made under section 139 subsection 1, and the notice under section 142 subsection 1 clause 1 or section 148, as the case may be, had not been served on him, then the assessing officer, he should first issue the notice under appropriation section to the legal representative of the deceased and then proceed to assess the income of the deceased person in the hands of such a representative if the representative were the assessee. Is that if on the death of the deceased person, the means there is a person, Mr. A, and he has expired. And after his expiry, his return of income had not been made. Means the return of income under section 139 subsection 1 has not been filed. Just like Mr. A, Mr. A, he has died. He has expired and his return of income is not filed. His return of income is not filed. His return of his income is not filed under section 139 subsection 1. Under section 139 subsection 1, his return of income is not filed. Is not filed, but before the filing of his return of income, he has died. He has died. So the return of income has not been made under section 139 and the notice under section 142 subsection 1 clause 1 and section 148 as the case may be has not been served. It has not been served on him. The any notice under section 142 subsection 1 clause 1 and notice under section 148 has not been served on him. So the assessing officer, so first the assessing officer, he will issue the notice. First the assessing officer should issue the notice under the appropriate section to the legal representative. First the assessing officer, he will issue the notice to the legal representative of the deceased under the appropriate section. Under the appropriate section, first the AO assessing officer, he will issue the notice to the deceased person, to the legal representative of the deceased person. Just like Mr. A's legal representative is, for the example, Mr. B. Mr. B is the legal representative of Mr. A. So now the AO will send, now the AO will issue a notice to the B, and then after he will proceed or he will start to assess the income of such a deceased person. Now then after he will start the assessment or he will start the assess the income of the such a deceased person. Then after he will start the assess the income of the such a deceased person in the hands of such a representative. Means now he will assess the income of such a representative. He will assess the income of such deceased person in the hands of such a representative. Means he will consider that now such a representative is an assessee, and on the basis of him, the AO will calculate or the AO will assess the income of such a deceased person and assess the income of such a deceased person in the hands of such a legal representative. So now the assessee, so now the legal representative will be considered as assessee and the AO will calculate or the AO will assess the amount of income of such a deceased person on such a legal representative. And such a legal representative is responsible. Now he will become responsible that he will comply or he will follow with the notice which is served by the AO or with by the any income tax department. Is that if any of the notice or any of the declaration, means any of the notice, if it is served by the assessing officer or by the income tax department, then the legal representative of such a deceased person will be responsible to comply it. He will comply it. So the assessment may be made on the representative under section 147. Under section 147, the assessment can be made on such a legal representative because now the legal representative is considered as assessee. He is considered as assessee. So, if there is any assessment is required to be made on such a deceased person, now all these assessment will be made on the such a legal representative. On such a legal representative means means assessment may be made on the representative under section 147 in the respect of income of the deceased person, in the respect of the income of the deceased person which has been escaped assessment in the relevant year. Which has been escaped means if there is any income which is escaped by the legal representative in the any year, then and the AO has any doubt about any of the income, then the AO can issue a notice. He can issue a notice under section 147 in the respect of such escaped income, and such a notice will be issued on such a legal representative. On such a legal representative on the behalf of such deceased person. On the behalf of such deceased person. Penalty on legal representative. Penalty on the legal representative. Penalty on the legal representative. Similarly, if there is any proceeding which is relating to the penalty, which is pending and which is taken against the deceased person, if there is any default, if there is any default, and a default is made by the such a deceased person, means there was a default and the default is committed by the such a deceased person, and in the respect of such a default there was a penalty, or there was any penalty proceeding. Now such penalty proceeding will be continued and it will be started against the legal representative, means now it will be considered that the legal representative is the party of such a legal proceeding, of such a penalty proceeding on the behalf of such deceased person, means he will be considered the party of such a proceeding, and to he will be liable to make the payment of penalty. He will be liable to make the payment of penalty on the behalf of such a deceased person, because there was a penalty proceeding against such a deceased person. Now such a legal representative is considered as assessee on the behalf of such deceased person. So such a person, such a legal representative will be under the obligation that he will he will continue such proceeding, and if there is any penalty which is required to be paid by the such person, then he will pay. So, similarly, penalty proceeding which could have been taken against the deceased for the default which is committed by him can be stated against the legal representative. He, being an assessee, is also liable to a penalty for his own default. For his own default, he is also liable to make the payment of penalty if there is any own default is income up to the date of death and end of the accounting year. Income up to the date of death and the end of accounting year. So, section 159, section 159 of the Income Tax Act apply in the respect of income of the deceased person. Income of the deceased person means, as per the provision of section 159 of the Income Tax Act, the income of the deceased person will be calculated, it will be assessed up to the death of such person, up to the death of such person, not up to the end of financial year, not up to the end of financial year. Is that for the example, mr sohan Mr. Sohan, he has died. He become died. He died. He has expired, for the example, on 25th December 2020. And the year end, financial year end on 31st March 2021. Financial year end 31st March 21. So his income will be assessed. His income will be assessed income will be assessed till 25th December 20. His income will be assessed till his death, till the date of his death, not till the end of year. Means the income of deceased person, the income of Sohan will be assessed only till the date of his death, only till the date of his death, not till the date of financial year, not till the end of financial year. So section 159 applies in the respect of the income of the deceased person, and the income of the deceased person will be assessed, it will be determined up to the date of death and not up to the date of accounting year, not up to the date of accounting year. The income of the state from period, the income of the state for the period from the date of death up to the end of accounting year in which death in which the death occurred should be assessed under section 168 in the hands of executor. Is that in the case of any estate, in the case of any property, if there is any income, if there is any income, then the income up to the death of such a person will be assessed in his hand, and after the death to accounting year, to end of accounting year, the income from such estate will be assessed in the hands of the executor, in the hands of executor. Thus, in the respect of year of death, two separate and two distinct assessment will be made. Number one, up to the death of deceased person, income will be assessed in the hands of such a deceased person, in the hands of such deceased person. And after the means from the date of death to financial year end, if there is any state income, then the assessment will be made in the hands of such executor, in the hands of such executor. Thus, in the respect of year of death, two assessment and deceased assessment would have to be made. The prior one on the legal representative under section 159 and the later one on the executor under section 168. Under section 159, the tax liability will be paid by the legal representative, means the legal representative they will make the payment of tax. And under section 168, the tax will be liable in the hands of executor, in the hands of executor. This may even lower the indication of law for the year. So the position will be the same even if the representative and the executor are one or they are same. Means the situation will be same, the situation will be same and the liability will be same if the legal representative and the executor both are different or both are same. Both are different and both are same, because as per section 159, the liability of the income up to the death of such deceased person will be taxable in the hands of legal representative. Means the legal representative of such a deceased person will be liable to make the payment of tax, will be liable to make the payment of tax on the assessed income. And after the death, after the date of death till the date of end of assessment year, end of financial year, end of the financial year, if there is an income, then it will be assessed in the hands of executor, or as the case may be, legal representative, if both the parties are same. If the both the party means the legal representative and the executor both are same, then as per section 168, such income will be taxable. It will be assessed in the hands of executor. It will be taxable in the hands of executor. So this is the taxability. Now we will discuss apportionment. How we will apportion? How we will apportion? How we will apportion the amount of income of the such a deceased person, such a deceased person. So as the consequences of the two separate assessment, as a consequences of two separate assessment, as mentioned above, means the income will be divided, means there will be two assessment. Number one, in the hands of legal representative as per section 159, and next in the hands of executor or the legal representative as per section 168. So how we will separate, how we will apportion the amount of income between two periods, how we will apportion the amount of income between two periods. So as the consequences of the two separate assessment as mentioned above, apportionment of the income between two periods become necessary. Yeah, it will be necessary. As per section 159, as per section 156, it will be taxable in the hands of different person. So it is very much important to bifurcate, to classify, to apportion the amount of income of such deceased person in the two parts. Here, it is to be noted that certain income like dividend or the interest, if any, they become payable after that, cannot be apportioned to the period up to the date of death because they do not occur from day to day. Is that in the case of the amount of interest, in the case of amount of dividend, if such amount of dividend is received by the, it is received after the death of such person, then it will not be considered that such income is relating to the such income is relating to the previous date of such a death of such person, because the interest income or the dividend income is an income which is not accrued from day to day. It is not accrue, it is not due day to day. When it will be received, then it will be considered as income. When it is received, then it will be considered as income. If it is received after the death, if it is received after the death, then there is no need to apportion such income. It will be considered the income. It will be considered the income which is earned or which is received after the death of the deceased person. So, in the case of dividend, in the case of interest, and just like income, there are certain incomes. If these income are payable, if these income are become payable after death, then it cannot be apportioned. It cannot be apportioned. Liability of legal representative. Now we will discuss the liability of legal representative. Means the legal representative will be liable to make the payment of tax, to make the payment of interest, to make the payment of any penalty on the behalf of such a deceased person. On the behalf of such deceased person. So the act imposes a liability on the legal representative, not only in the respect of tax, but also in the respect of other sums. Means means such a legal representative shall be liable to make the payment of tax, as well as he shall also liable to make the payment of any penalty, any fine, any interest which will be paid by, or which will be paid by the paid by the deceased person if he alive. If if he will be alive, then he will pay such a tax, such amount of expense, such amount of interest, such amount of fees and penalty. Then after the death of such person, the legal representative of such person will be liable to make the payment of all these amount, all these amount. The act imposed the liability on the legal representative not only in the respect of tax. Means the legal representative is not only liable to make the payment of tax, but he is also liable to make the payment of other sums, just like penalty, fine, and interest, which the deceased would have been liable to pay if he had not died. If he has not died, then he will be liable to make the payment of all these taxes, all these penalties, all these liabilities. Then now, after his death, his legal representative will make the payment of all these amounts. This liability is limited to the extent of which the state of the capable of meeting the liability. Means the liability will be limited. The liability will be limited. It will be limited to the extent of which the state is capable to meeting the liability. The state is capable to meeting the liability. But if the legal representative, while his tax liability remain undischarged, then he will create, then it creates a charge on the or dispose of or part with any of the assets of the estate of the deceased, which are maybe come into his possession, his this is a personal liability, however, be limited to the value of assets to charge, dispose, or the part with. Is that the liability of the deceased person can be paid by the, it can be paid by the person, it can be paid by the person by selling of any of estate of such deceased person. Means the legal representative, he wants to pay the amount of tax liability, he wants to pay the amount of interest, he wants to pay the amount of penalty on the behalf of such deceased person. Then for the payment of these liability, for the payment of this amount, he may the person may the legal representative may sell any of the part, any of the property, any of the estate of such a legal representative of such a deceased person, and he will recover the amount from the disposal of such assets, and then after he will make the payment of all the liabilities. This personal liability is imposed by subsection 4. Only in the respect of tax and not in the respect of penalty, fine and interest. So, so the legal representative is not only liable to make the payment of tax on the behalf of assessee, on the behalf of deceased person. He will also be liable to make the payment of any penalty, make the payment of any interest and fine, which is required to be paid by such deceased person if he alive. If he alive. And he make the payment of tax. The legal representative, he make the payment of such tax by the dispose of any assets of such a legal representative. The provision of section 161 subsection 2, the provision of section 162 and section 167 shall apply to the legal representative to the extent that they are inconsistent with the provision of this section. Means the provision of section 161 subsection 2, the provision of section 162 and 167 will be applicable on the legal representative. It will be applicable on the legal representative. So, on the basis of such discussion, we have discussed the liability of special cases. Means we have discussed section 159 of the Income Tax Act, in which we have discussed who is the legal representative, and who will be liable, to make the payment of tax, to make the payment of other liabilities, where when the person become dead. Means who will be considered as legal representative and who will be considered the executor, and how we will apportion or how we will assess the amount of income of such a deceased person after his death and before his death, and how we will apportion, how we will bifurcate the amount of income of the deceased person in two parts. Means before his death and after his death. So on the basis of the discussion, we have understand if there is any person who has deceased, means if any person he has died, then what provision will be there in the Income Tax Act in the respect of his income. In the respect of his income means how we will assess the income of the deceased person after his death. So there are some other classes which are relating to such special cases, and kindly consider and kindly watch all the classes so that you can properly understand each and every treatment of these cases. So thank you so much for watching this video. Okay, bye bye and have a nice day.